നമ്മളിന്ന് നോക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത് +1 ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലെ ദ റക്ക് ഓഫ് ദ ടൈറ്റാനിക് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ചാപ്റ്ററിൻ്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻസേഴ്സും ആക്ടിവിറ്റീസുമാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ ഫസ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ, വൈ വാസ് ദ ടൈറ്റാനിക് കോൾഡ് എ പോയം ഓഫ് അയൺ ആൻഡ് സ്റ്റീൽ? ദ ടൈറ്റാനിക് കോൾഡ് എ പോയം ഓഫ് അയൺ ആൻഡ് സ്റ്റീൽ ബിക്കോസ് ഇറ്റ് വാസ് ഗ്രാൻഡ് ആൻഡ് ബ്യൂട്ടിഫുൾ ലൈക്ക് എ പോം. Question 2. What was the feeling of the poet on board when they started the journey? The people on board felt that they were very safe and they would not meet any danger. Question 3. What was the ominous form that loomed out of the darkness? The ominous form that loomed out of the darkness was the huge iceberg that would collide with the Titanic and break it up. Question 4. Why was the Captain Smith, the commander of the ship, called brave? Captain Smith, the commander of the ship, was called brave because not even for one moment he thought of saving his life. When he knew the ship was sinking, he stood on the bridge and told his crew that they were British and they should remember their country and should do their duty. They should save the passengers first. Question 5. Who got the top priority to be rescued from the sinking Titanic? Women and children got the top priority to be rescued from the sinking Titanic. Question 6. What was the only hope of the people of sinking Titanic when all boats sailed away? When all boats sailed away, the only hope for the people of the sinking Titanic was eternity, the hope that they will go to heaven. Question 7. What were the bandsmen doing when the Titanic was sinking? When the Titanic was sinking, the bandsmen were playing the hymn, Never My God to Thee. Never My God to Thee. It shows how courageous they were when in the face of danger. Question 8. What was the awfully grand scene according to the poet? According to the poet, awfully grand scene was the courage displayed by those who left out in the sinking ship. One of them could have saved his life, but he offered his place to his friends and willingly accepted death. Definitely, that was awfully grand. Question 9. Why would the story of the Titanic be remembered always? The story of the Titanic would be remembered always because of two reasons. First, it was the greatest maritime tragedy ever occurred in world history. Second, the sacrifice one sailor made by sending another person in his place, accepting death voluntarily, will be remembered always. There is no sacrifice greater than giving up one's life for one's friend. Activity second. Question 10. Have you heard or read about any such persons? Share your answer with your friends. The crew of the Titanic were real heroes because even in the face of death, they were duty bound, upholding certain values and principles. Do you know any such person who has upheld moral values and principles even in the moment of death? I have read about one such person. He is Sidney Carter in the novel A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. In the end, we see Sidney Carter willingly dying in place of Charles Darnay, who was the husband of Louise Manette. Sidney Carter had loved Louise before she married Charles. Charles was to be guillotined, who had some resemblance to Charles, saved him from the prison and dies on his behalf. Activity third. Appreciation. Question 11. Read the poem more critically again and think of it in terms of theme, emotion, language and relevance, and more points to each of the boxes given in related to theme, emotion, language and relevance of the poem. Theme: shipwork, duty, sacrifice. Emotion: patriotism, love for one's fellow beings, pity. Language: simple, lucid or clear. Third: conversational. Relevance: insight about crisis management, the need for compassion, fortitude and heroism in times of crisis. Based on your analysis, write a critical appreciation of the poem The Wreck of the Titanic. The poem The Wreck of the Titanic by Benjamin Peck-Keith is an excellent one. The poem tells how noble people could be even in times of danger. It talks about the sinking of Titanic and brings out the best in men even in the adverse circumstances threatening their lives. From Southampton, the Titanic starts her voyage. It was beautiful and grand ship. She was a sea dream. Thousands of people standing on the shore watched her steaming away. She was the largest and the grandest of all ships made until then. There were thousands of passengers in the ship. They felt very secure. Now nobody thought of any danger as the captain stood at the wheel. He was directing the course of the ship. The ship was speeding on her first voyage when suddenly, out of the darkness in the night, a ghostly white iceberg appeared. Soon it collided with the ship, wrecking it. It soon began to sink, and people know it was sinking. Captain Smith was the commander of the ship. He was brave, not even for one moment he thought of saving his life. He stood on the bridge and told his crew that they were British and they told remember their country and should do their duty. They decided to send the women and children in the lifeboats. The crew had no hope of saving themselves. The Titanic sank from sight. As the band played Nearer My God to Thee, there never was a scene grander or more tragic than this. The ship was sinking, but the band was playing. All credits goes to Smith, the crew, and the men of Titanic. Their bravery and courage will be remembered forever. They had showed such courage and nobility during the great tragedy. The poem has different themes which include shipwreck, duty and sacrifice. It appeals to our emotions and like patriotism, love for one's fellow being and pity. The poet has used simple, lucid and conversational language. The poem is in rhyme and the rhyming scheme is A, B, B. It has a fine rhythm and it sounds melodious. It has fine imagery and the poet has used a number of figure of speeches, especially metaphor and personification. The poem has great relevance as it gives insights about crisis management, the need for compassion, fortitude and heroism in times of crisis. അടുത്ത ആക്ടിവിറ്റി 4 ആണ്, ഒരു ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പർ റിപ്പോർട്ടാണ്. We know that newspaper reports are non-fictional. They give us a factual information about an incident. Study the features of a good newspaper report as given below. അപ്പോൾ ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പർ റിപ്പോർട്ടിൻ്റെ ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് ആണ് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത്. ഹെഡ്ലൈൻ, short and attention grabbing. Byline, usually written below the headline. It may carry the writer's name. Paragraph, follow the inverted pyramid principle. The most important details come in the initial paragraph. Quotes, it will be interesting and useful to quote the words of people involved in the incident. Facts and opinions, try to own all the facts possible using the 5 W's. Third person, the report is written in the third person as the reporter is retelling the incident without being involved in it. Works in groups and fill up the table given below. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ താഴെ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ടേബിൾ ഫില്ല് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടാണ്. നമുക്ക് ആൻസർ നോക്കാം. ഹെഡ്ലൈൻ, ദ ടൈറ്റാനിക് സിങ്സ്, 1500 passengers feared death. Byline, paragraph broad outline of each paragraph. Report by Rahul Binoy, 5. A, start of the voyage, number of passengers, a description of the ship. B, how happy and confident the people were. C, the iceberg hitting the ship and wrecking it and it begins to sink. D, the heroic captain and the crew deciding to evacuate passengers, the band playing and the crew and male passengers going down. E, the lesson to be learned, nobility and heroism of people. Survivor's opinion, I have never seen anything more tragic and nobler in all my life. Question 13, use the clues in the table and prepare a newspaper report about the wreck of Titanic. The Titanic sinks, more than 1,500 people dead. Southampton, 15th April 1912. The Titanic, which began its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York, collided with a huge iceberg and sank in the icy waters of Newfoundland. It was the biggest passenger ship ever made and it was supposed to be unsinkable. There were 2,220 passengers and nearly 60 crew members. The captain was Mr. Smith. Since the ship was thought to be safe, it earned only a few lifeboats. Captain Smith and the crew behaved gallantly. Instead rushing to safety, they allowed the passengers to go into the lifeboats. They asked the women and children to enter the lifeboats first. More than 1,500 people would not get safety and they sank with the Titanic. What Captain Smith, the crew and the male passengers did was a heroic act. It will be remembered by the posterity. England has declared a day of mourning for the dead. The government has announced some financial relief to the relatives of the victims. One survivor, Marianne Monroe, remarked, I have never seen anything more tragic and nobler in all my life. അപ്പോൾ ഇതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ചാപ്റ്റർ. താങ്ക് യു.